Hey everybody, welcome to Legal Tech Week, our live roundtable where we talk about the week's top stories in legal tech and legal innovation and whatever else strikes our fancy, Supreme Court comings and goings and whatever else. It is July 8th, 2022. I am Bob Ambrogi. I write the blog Law Sites and also have the podcast Law Next. And of course, also have the Law Next Legal Technology Directory if you're looking for a place to find legal tech products. And our panelists this week, as you see before you, are who wants to kick it off? Niki, you want to start us off with your beautiful background there?
Sure. My name is Niki Black. I'm the legal technology evangelist with My Case Law Practice Management Software. I write legal tech columns for the ABA Journal, Above the Law, and the Daily Record, and occasionally for the My Case blog as well. And I'm looking forward to today. I had to miss last week, unfortunately.
Well, glad to have you back. Victor, how about you?
Hi, everyone. My name is Victor Lee. I am Assistant Managing Editor for the ABA Journal, handling business of law and technology. And I also missed last week as well, so I'm looking forward to this too.
And Joe.
Joe Patrice from Above the Law and the Thinking Like a Lawyer podcast. I was out of town last week. I'm finally back in the correct time zone. I mean, that's not fair, but in the more manageable time zone. How about that? And I did it by driving cross country, and so now I've seen everything, and I'm just glad to be home.
You drove across country on purpose?
Yeah, because as it turns out, airline tickets to Portland were like $1,500 a person.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
And it was like $1,000 for me to drive, so it was actually cheaper.
Yeah, wow. And last but not least, Steve.
Steve Embry. I publish and write the blog Tech Law Crossroads. In fact, I do everything with the blog. Anyway, and I was also not here last week, so gosh, without me and Victor and Niki, it must have been a boring show last week.
Yeah, it totally was. I don't even remember what we talked about. No, not at all. Anyway, let's see. What do we got? We actually had something very interesting that happened this week. I think as a spinoff of last week's. Was it last week's show where we talked about Decisis, which is this new legal research service that Lexis Nexis sort of almost kind of privately launched. I mean, not privately, secretly launched. I mean, they launched it, but they don't. There's nowhere on the website that you can find that it was launched by LexisNexis or by its parent company. But somebody who was watching the show last week was inspired to go check it out, and he wrote a review of it and emailed it around. I think, did all the panelists get that? He emailed his review of it around to all of us, and actually emailed him asking if he would like to have it published. I'd put it up on my blog because it's a really good interview. And I see he's actually in the audience. I don't know. I hate to call on somebody if they don't want to be called on, but if you're interested in talking a little bit about what you saw, I can bring you up to the fore. If you are raising your hand. All right, I'm going to click on. This might just let you talk, Jeff. Jeff, can we hear you now? Are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Hey, how are you doing? Am I pronouncing? Is it Jeffrey Heffernan? Is that right?
You got it exactly right. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hey, so that was very cool of you to do that. And I wonder. I mean, do you want to just take a couple minutes to share what you concluded about it, or what you found about it?
Yeah, absolutely happy to. And number
and
one,
who you are first of all. What do you do, and
yeah.
who you are? Yeah.
Absolutely. So, my name is Jeffrey Heffernan. I'm a solo attorney in energy law. I've been practicing, about 2 decades. A little more than the first 10 years was in-house, and the rest has been solo. And I do whatever I can to try to make my life easier as far as technology goes. And so I'm always looking for better tools. And it's I always find it to be a struggle, but that's so. And I just recently in the last I guess, few weeks, started tuning in or zooming in to Legal Tech Week and finding it very informative. Last week, you mentioned Decisis, and I saw that new service had a free trial for solo attorneys and 2 attorney law firms. So I signed up and gave it a try, and interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Well, so I actually I almost wish I knew. I didn't know that it was owned by a much larger group, that is to say, Lexis. But I don't know if that would have helped or hurt one way or the other. So I did a very short try, just a few hours, looking for a couple of things. I looked for one of my favorite cases. It's a New York Court of Appeals case from 1892. It had the case. I tried its citator called Intercite to see how many hits I got. And the number of hits I got was 46. So it was cited in 46 cases. Great. But in 2018, I looked up the same case and shepherdized it on Lexis, and it had 47 cases. So there was one less.
Huh.
And so I looked to see what's the one case, and the 46 cases that were in Intercite were also in the Lexis shepherdized list. So what was the one case? Well, the one case that wasn't listed in Decisis was a New York Intermediate Appellate Court, an appellate division case, and it just didn't show up. So I took that case and searched for the case on its own in Decisis, and I got a message that said that, let's see, this case is outside the scope of Decisis case law collection.
Uh-huh.
And that was a 1921 case from a New York Appellate Division court. So, okay, not the hottest thing in the world, but, 1921, I mean, it's a real thing. And then I checked elsewhere. It was available on Case Text. It was available at case.law. It was available on Fast Case. And those are all free. The Case Text, if you search, you can get a free,
Yeah.
site. And also I subscribed to Bloomberg Law, and it was available on that. So that was kind of like,
Yeah.
That was the number one. So, and then the number two issue I would say was this. So the citator, again, they called Intercite.
Right.
Showing
Which
me
is a part of what they really kind of promote, that they have a great citator on this. If you look at their website, they play that up.
Yeah, that term did come up, a lot on the different introductory pages. There's like Intercite report for the citations, and there was also the analytics thing. But just looking at the Intercite report, so the hits that I got there, it ran to 46 hits, ran to about 5 pages, web pages. So you'd have to click on, page 1, you see that, then page 2 to get to the next set, 3, 4, 5. I was like, okay, I want to download this report so I could have it. Can't do that. I couldn't download a PDF of the Intercite report. So, I had from 2018 when I looked at the Shepard's report on the case from Lexis, I had that PDF in my files. Great, but I couldn't just readily make one of this case from Decisis. I went to the online chat, and customer service told me that you can't do that right now. But they did say that the customer service person, and it was actually escalated to a second person, the customer service person I spoke to did say they agreed that was an important feature, that they would talk to their engineers to be able to download the Intercite report. So that's kind of huge. And they did mention that I could do a PDF of each page, and I'm like, okay, well, that's just one case. If I have a lot of cases, that would have been
right.
sort of a pain.
Yeah.
So that was the second thing. And then the third thing was, so these are all old, those are old cases I was looking at. So a current case in the 8th Circuit Federal Court of Appeals, there's a docket there that I'm watching. I'm watching on Bloomberg Law, but I'm Pacer and everywhere. And so I was like, all right, let me see if this comes up on Decisis. It did come up, but the most recent entry when I checked, which was I guess was it yesterday or yesterday, was May 5th. And I know that it's been actually updated more recently, July 5th. And so I wanted to see, can I get this docket for the 8th Circuit updated? And there was like no button or anything to request that. So again, I went to the online chat and asked, is there a way to update the docket for this appellate case in the federal court? And the response was no. It was actually, unfortunately, we do not have that functionality. And there was no kind of subsequent comment like, that's really important and we'll talk to our engineers. No, it was just like, we don't have that. Now, you know, I mean, I kind of felt like when on my first online chat, like with customer service, when it was escalated, I was talking to someone who kind of felt like, oh, they were like minds lawyer. I can tell this is important. Maybe this person, you know, didn't quite have all of the info at the person's fingertips. Who knows? But anyway, you know, not being able to update the docket and seeing some of the more recent filings is kind of like, I'm not even sure what the point was to have the service. I'm actually really not sure what's the value there.
Yeah, so that was $200 a month they wanted for that?
So that's one,
that, 195,
yeah. So, and you know, and the whole point is they have 3 levels, 125, 145, and 195. The only reason I would sign up for 195, that's the trial that I was doing, is because it had dockets, you know, and like, you know, like I've been using Bloomberg Law for almost 10 years now. And, you know, it's got like, you know, it's got its imperfections. But overall, I've been getting more value out of that than others because one thing, its docket service has been very handy to me. And it's basically included. So I was like, all right, let me check this out with the CISIS. They have dockets. Okay. But no, I, you know, couldn't update a docket. That's a problem. And it's so weird because like, where did the docket even come from? I mean, why was it updated?
That's pretty strange. I mean, Lexis, you know, Lexis is pulling that stuff down and from the dockets and the court dockets, and if they've certainly are going to have more recent. I mean, they're going to have at least the same day docket stuff on Lexis. Generally, they usually pull it down every night, all the current docket information. So you would think they'd pass along that same stuff to this service, but. Anyway, well, that's really great. I really appreciate your sharing that with us, and I'm glad our discussion inspired you to take a look at that. And like I say, if you have any interest in us, I can publish your email up on my blog or somewhere else, or if you've got it published somewhere, I can share it around and let people know. You've got a much more detailed write-up here than you just talked about, so that was really great. But anybody have any questions? Any of the panelists have any questions for Jeff about this, or no? All right. Well, hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. I'm going to now mute you, I guess, again. But thanks a lot for doing that. Good to talk to you. All right. I think I unmuted him. Okay. All right. Well, that was really cool. I love that the conversation it spurred somebody to go out and give it a try. So in other news this week, well, I don't know. Maybe since we're talking about court dockets, we actually have a possible transition here, and B, since Niki wasn't here last week anyway. And she's got an article that relates to court dockets, then and because she has the best background of the day, I guess that gives her first dibs at going next.
I'm winning. Who knew? I'm gonna compete every week with this background from now on. I'm all in. So what I wrote about, I started with ABA Journal, and then I sort of did a follow-up piece on Above the Law. And it was on e-filing tools. What I've been doing at the ABA Journal, where I write about different types of software each month, is I've for the last 4 months or so, I've been focusing on software that enables remote either depositions or court appearances. since it seems like one of the biggest long-term effects of the pandemic is going to be some remote court appearances, especially for more routine matters. So I figured it was high time that I focused on some of those, in part because somebody wrote to me about one of my columns and asked me if I would follow up with trial presentation software. So I've just been doing this whole series of tools to enable remote court appearances and depositions. And so I figured e-filing would be the sort of next most obvious one, because that's yet another thing I think that has been accelerated by the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, this was already on the increase, in large part because a lot of different jurisdictions across the country were either making it mandatory or optional, but we're starting to transition to the e-filing option. And for a lot of attorneys, that can be stressful, because if you screw up your e-filing, that can, you know, have a dramatic effect on your case. And if it's a particularly important filing, it could be the end of your case if you do it incorrectly. So, and the other problem that you'll see, and I talk about this in my articles, and I'll post links to those momentarily, is that these e-filing sites that the courts have just sort of run the gamut in terms of the actual interface, in terms of their functionality, in terms of their intuitiveness. Oftentimes they look like something from 1995, like web pages from so long ago. And so they're really difficult to navigate, and that makes it all the more stressful for attorneys trying to file something at the last minute, which, you know, you probably shouldn't be doing to begin with, but it happens, right? So, so what I wrote about was, thanks, Bob. So for the ABA Journal, I went through and sort of talked about this phenomenon of how e-filing is increasing, and, you know, the social distancing of the pandemic made it even more both desirable and used by everybody. And so in order to avoid this issue of worrying that you're going to do it incorrectly, there are companies that provide e-filing services for you. They understand how to navigate the sites. They do it all the time. And you can connect with these companies and use software that they provide online, you know, instruct them with what you'd like to be done, and then they'll do it for you. And for a lot of lawyers, especially larger law firms, that's the best option. And that's the easiest way to make sure that your cases and your documents are properly filed with the court. So in my ABA Journal column, I covered some of the most well-known services that are out there, especially the ones that have the broadest jurisdiction. There are lots of services that will focus on a specific state, for example. There's only a handful that I'm aware of that cover a large number of different jurisdictions. And so what I tried to do with the ABA Journal column was write about enough services that had a variety of different service areas that no matter who's reading it, they would be covered and be able to find an e-filing service that would work for their firm. And then in my Above the Law column, I kind of took a little bit broader of a view because my ABA Journal columns are very focused on, this is the type of software, this is why it's good, and here's some of the biggest players, and here's some things to consider when choosing it. And that's what I do every month at my ABA Journal column. And in Above the Law, I just took a broader view of the phenomenon as a whole, and linked to, and also talked about the concept not only of e-filing, but of just virtual court proceedings in general, and provided links to some of the columns I'd written that talked about the specific types of tools or software or services that sort of help make those connections. And then, you know, to tie it up in a knot, I also talked about how the other thing that really happened during the pandemic is that, you know, you had to also learn in terms for business resiliency. Most law firms realized that they had to have certain systems in place to ensure business continuity, which would include, you know, either standalone services or law practice management software, which, you know, so the standalones would be billing software, payment processing software, document management, document assembly, CRM software, online intake software for, you know, potential clients. So just a host of different functionalities that, and also there's VoIP that lawyers need to have in place to ensure, and Zoom, you know, some sort of video conferencing software. So there's all sorts of tools that lawyers need to have in place to ensure business continuity, no matter what the situation, so that their firms can continue to run, they can manage their business, and they can appear in court if necessary remotely. So I sort of tied the knot on those two columns together on those different issues. That's what I focused on for those two columns. And I think it's interesting because things are changing, and I do think there are going to be some long-term effects, especially now that we have monkeypox. Is anyone following the monkeypox? It's a little bit alarming. So we're all just going to be stuck in our houses forever. It's okay.
Wait a minute, how do we make that transition there? How do we get the monkeypox?
Because it's alarming.
From
Just when we
e-filing.
think that maybe COVID's like slowing down, and
If you
suddenly
file your
monkeypox.
documents electronically, you're less likely to be exposed to monkeypox.
Right. So there you go. So
Yeah, no, I thought it was really interesting, and I think actually part of some of the e-filing options out there are it's actually a little bit of a confusing landscape of products sometimes, especially trying to figure out which products cover which states and all of that. So I thought your ABA Journal article was really was helpful in that sense, and I think it was the Above the Law article. Was that the one where I actually learned something I didn't know, which was that Zoom now has a whole section of its website devoted to talking about the topic of hybrid and virtual courts. Who knew that? That was actually kind of interesting to find out too. But I guess that tells you that, as you say, that it is here to stay, and it ain't going away anytime soon.
Yeah, I thought your comment about the hybrid trials situation, Nikki, was really interesting. I've been kind of interested in that phenomenon for a while because it lets you do things in the courtroom in a smoother way. I mean, and the example that I always think about is an opening statement. I mean, if you were able to pre-record your opening statement, have the judge deal with all the objections and interruptions and all that, so that when it went to the jury, it would be, a presentation like they're used to seeing on YouTube or TV or something, which is a lot more interesting than having to become a disjointed opening statement interrupted by 25 objections, many of which are meaningless and done just to throw you off track and all that jazz. But I sort of think that may be the future because I don't think people want to give up particularly criminal lawyers, defense lawyers, and maybe even prosecutors for that matter, want to give up the right of being able to confront witnesses. And I understand that. And, so the future may be some sort of hybrid kind of approach where some functions of the trial are done remotely and, some are done in person, and, and that may actually be a better system all the way around. So I thought it was an interesting take on it.
thanks. I thought that the Johnny Depp trial was particularly interesting to watch from that perspective in particular, because the witnesses just appeared in so many different ways. One guy was like driving, right. And some of them were recorded, some of them were live. Some of them just said the darndest things when they were testifying. I think sometimes when you're removed from the courtroom and testifying remotely, some of the decorum might be lost in terms of what the witness is experiencing. And I think that was evident a little bit in the Johnny Depp trial. But it also just made it possible for them to present their witnesses that otherwise might not have been able to take time off from work, or might not have been able to afford to fly, or if you are a public defender and you have a witness that's far away, and you're clearly your office isn't going to be able to afford to fly him in. So I think it can also really help certain aspects of criminal justice system when you're trying to offer a strong defense for your client. So I thought it was a very interesting, very public example of that from that perspective. And from the whole trial was just kind of ridiculous to watch, but there are a lot of other things going on there too.
And even from the prosecution side, I mean, like when I used to try cases, like if it was like an old case and a police officer or detective had retired, usually they would go to like Florida or California or Arizona. Then it's like we'd have to fly them over all the way back to New York and put them up and everything like that. And that became a huge pain for us. So I could definitely see that, like even though there's again, that'd be interesting with the confrontation issue as well. But then just not being able to cut those costs and not having to worry about tracking down a police officer, flying them back to the city and whatnot. That would be a huge savings of time and money. But yeah, then again, I would wonder about the Sixth Amendment question, because I don't think defense lawyers would be very accommodating of that.
Yeah,
for sure. but you never know. If they had some witnesses they wanted it in a given trial, I can see how there might be a little give and take, but you'd still like have to object on the record probably and preserve it for appeal, even if the judge is balanced in both parties wanting to have someone remote. You never know. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, though, for sure.
Yeah. One of the downsides for me is I'm on this arbitration panel in the Virgin Islands, and I used to usually go down 2 or 3 times a year to hear cases. And I was supposed to have one coming up in September, and the parties just decided, let's just do it virtually. We don't really need to have you come down here. I'm like, yeah, I kind of need to come down there, but so that's one of the downsides. But Greg Siskin commented in the chat, I think he just put it to the hosts and panelists, that we do mass immigration lawsuits, and one of the nice benefits of the hearings being in Zoom is the ability of all the plaintiffs, who are often all over the world, to be able to watch, which that's pretty cool. Yeah. And one of the other interesting things about the Johnny Depp trial was the way the media, yes, it was Johnny Depp, and Amber Heard. So it was, but the way the media covered it was so much focus on the social media around the trial, and constantly is like sort of trying to take the pulse of social media, almost as a way of trying to predict how the trial would turn out, which I guess in a way turned out to be, I won't say spot on, but in fact, that sort of is how the case turned out. But this weight of seemed like the weight of sentiment on social media was for Johnny Depp, which I didn't quite get myself. But it was just it was fascinating to see. I'm thinking about like some outlets like Court TV or something just try and kind of focus in on covering a trial and showing what's going on in the courtroom, and here the whole world of social media almost became an extension of what was going on in the courtroom, the way it was covered. And it was really fascinating.
Well, I thought it was interesting how I've written quite a few features about like law and pop culture, and like how they, the intersection between that and whatnot. And one of the constant refrains for like when you look at like Law and Order,
Victor froze. You froze?
Oh no.
Sounded like it was going somewhere really interesting.
know,
Left
right?
us hanging.
Alas,
his dog ate the internet cable. There he is.
Sorry, did I freeze?
there we go.
Yeah,
You
sorry.
froze.
Yeah.
We
All right, here
yeah.
it is. All right.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, in writing a lot about like law and pop culture, it's just like, one refrain I always hear from actual lawyers is that, obviously, on TV they script the trials a certain way, so you have your big aha moment, or you have like the moment where the lawyer gets the witness, or the witness gets the lawyer or whatnot, and it rarely ever happens in real life. But I felt like, with the TikTokification of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing, like they were able to take like little clips like that where you had like the lawyer getting Amber Heard, or you had like the lawyer like or you had like the witness kind of talking back to one of the lawyers, and that went viral at one point. I was like, oh well, this must be a big deal for you too, or something like that. And I kind of felt, okay, yeah, now you're kind of seeing a little bit of that, where you get those aha moments and they make them go viral, and those are the moments that people pick up on, because that's what they're used to seeing. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. I don't know how much of that impact will be on future trials. But yeah, if just imagine if like OJ Simpson had that, like there'd been TikTok during the OJ trial, like the glove moment would have gone viral, like some of the other less than savory parts of that trial probably would have gone viral too. So.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, questionably, the glove moment did go viral to the extent we could do it then. It really, yeah, it was a very interesting trial, and yeah, and I mean, I think the to a point Bob made earlier, that the social media weight seemed to flow towards Depp, despite a lot of the stuff that had been in previous litigation. And I think a lot of it was that they did a really good job of kind of localizing it to being a defamation case. They really tamped down on, whoa, put aside whether or not bad things happened. Did this specific bad thing, and which was a highly technical way of going about it, and yet they were able to communicate that to regular folks sufficiently well that he ended up getting the benefit of the doubt on social media. Part of that's that he's a star, but I guess she technically is too. So yeah.
I think he's also a better actor, and it showed because he was incredibly likable and funny, and she just came off as sort of mechanized and fake. And I think he just told
Are
his
we talking
story
about
so
in the
much better.
Are we talking about in the trial or in Aquaman? Because also mechanized and fake.
Right? But I think it was just,
That whole movie, you could argue, was mechanized to fake.
but I thought it was so interesting. I mean, I can't imagine. I think there were some elements of who he really was in his testimony, but I think they were both pretty clearly acting, and you could see moments where their face would drop, the acting face would drop. You'd see it more with Amber than him, but I don't think that was the true Johnny Depp. But he certainly came off as very likable and approachable and appealing and smart and funny, and it made a difference. Oh, this would be my dog Ozzy. Welcome to the show, Ozzy.
Ozzy does not look too interested right now. But
As
appears
if
to be
as if Nikki's background couldn't get any better. Now we have the likable dog showing up.
There appears to be a hailstorm happening here in the office. So if you hear,
hope it doesn't
pelting.
head to upstate New York.
yeah,
Nikki's gonna have
I
to
mean,
go
should be
inside.
going the other direction. So
Yeah. I literally did not watch one moment of the Johnny Depp trial. I mean, I probably saw some on news clips or something, but I did not watch any of
It was all over TikTok, like the TikTokification, my new favorite word. That was a great way to describe it. Like at least I couldn't. TikTok knows what you want to see.
Yeah,
And
I just watched the
clearly
Niki
I
Black
wanted to see
videos, and
that.
I just go for the Niki Black videos on TikTok.
They're the best. She's very talented, I hear.
Yeah,
Funny,
yeah,
humorous, on
yeah,
spot. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, one thing that could happen with virtual trials is that maybe judges could start ruling on motions using like a thumbs up emoji or a thumbs down emoji or something.
Or a
Joe,
poop emoji.
what do you think? You think there's a place for emojis in courts?
yeah, that was great. So let me yeah. So let's talk about that. So so I didn't write anything because, again, driving cross country. So I had to kind of look for other stories to highlight this week. I found one from our friends who are not represented here at Legal Tech News, so I thought I'd talk about that. It was a piece from a partner who shareholder, I guess they call them, who was talking about how emojis are becoming a much bigger deal in employment litigation, which isn't shocking, right? The most obvious way somebody's going to get in trouble in an employment context is sending eggplants when they shouldn't be sending eggplants, right? So the lift of this move towards emojis got me thinking it's interesting as a just generic tech story, but it also got me thinking about some of the conversations that I've been having over the course of the last few conferences I've gone to and talked to folks about, we've talked a long time about the AI ability to grind through thousands and thousands and millions of documents and be like, here's what's important. How much is the AI picking up on, whoa, this emoji's here, and in this context, that's a problem? And, I've actually had conversations with a couple of companies who talk about, yeah, that's something that they're considering and something that they actually have a capability to do. I saw demos, so obviously a demo is always going to look nicer than reality. But in the demos, it did seem like it was picking up on subtleties like that and saying, this otherwise innocuous series of emojis seems like it could be problematic. You should take a look at that. Which, for a realm of law like employment litigation, where this is going to become an even bigger deal in the emojification, which was the thing before the TikTokification of the world, it's an interesting angle. Like, how do we deal with that, and to what extent are our robot overlords going to have to figure out answers to that?
Yeah, that was really interesting. I thought the article was actually an interesting article, and then I was just kind of quickly Googling, whether e-discovery software can collect emoji data, and there are actually a bunch of articles out there, and I mean certainly some of the products out there say they can, and I don't see why they shouldn't be able to, because they're just image files, and they should be able to be collected. But the article was kind of interesting in sort of talking about the admissibility into evidence. Like one of the points it raised is, well, is an emoji hearsay? And I started, I don't know, is that an out of court statement offered for the truth of the assertion in the emoji? I mean, what does that even mean? I don't know.
No. So the lesson of the last week, not to get to more non-tech related legal news, but the lesson of last week was nobody understands how hearsay works, and it's really not that hard, people. Like that whole January 6th hearing was people talking about how this is hearsay, and I was like, it's not. I took that test. I did pretty well on it. It's not hearsay, but nobody knows what that is, and I think people just want to slap that word on things because the offered for the truth of the matter part, everyone seems to be struggling with.
Right.
Because
that is the hard part.
You sent an eggplant emoji is not offered for the truth of the matter. Like that is what happened. The context of it, you have to bring out in some degree of in court testimony. But the fact that that happened is not a hearsay. But.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there were two parts about it that I thought were really interesting. The first is, have you ever read the decisions where the judges are trying to talk about the nuances of an emoji? Like, I don't even know what an emoji is. And then they're trying to like interpret, like, what does this emoji mean in this context? And I mean, I'm Gen X, I've got Gen Z kids. Half the time I don't know what an emoji means, and it changes, what these emojis mean change over time. And I can't keep up. So I think it's so funny that when you try to see these judges try to interpret what an emoji meant in a specific situation in this formalistic legalese language in a case, to boot. But then the other thing that I thought was interesting is with, when you referenced this AI in terms of e-discovery, I mean, I think maybe the AI can collect for e-discovery purposes. There was this emoji here and this emoji there. But I think that it's even more interesting when you get to the next level of AIs trying to interpret the meanings of the emojis. Like if they're trying to, one of the requests is for a particular type of statement, the emojis can very much change the context of the words in which they appear, so how the AI has a hard time interpreting legalese to begin with, or sarcasm, or, other types of human emotion that's in speech. So how are they gonna, when you get to the point where they're trying to interpret the emoji, I mean, it's just a free for all. I can't imagine they're going to be able to do it. But I thought those two things, when you take that concept a little, those are the most things that really caught my eye about those two issues.
Yeah, I was thinking, I thought about this before too. You can say, well, an emoji can mean different things in different contexts with different words, and it can be vague and ambiguous, but so can words. So, I mean, the only difference is with words, maybe we have a broader context of human understanding, but I'm not sure that's true when I read some of the Supreme Court opinions anymore either. So it may, as a lot of judges I was before used to say, guess we'll just have to let the jury decide it.
I don't know. Should we put this question in the chat to the full audience here, because they may know the answer to it. I never knew that one either.
Oh. Yeah, no. Yeah,
that was just going to panelists, the hosts and panelists.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, no, I actually didn't know this until relatively recently. I think actually in one of the conversations I had with one of the companies who said their AI captures this stuff, the poop emoji was created to be chocolate ice cream. There's apparently a corresponding white emoji that looks exactly the same, and it was supposed to be the vanilla, and then they had a chocolate, and they introduced the two of them at the same time, and people immediately started making this one poop, and it took off. And it was definitely, I wish I remember the company. I feel so bad that I can't. But whichever company was talking me through this was saying that part of the value of their AI is you have to learn context, and it evolves over time, and they were like, this was built to be chocolate ice cream, and here we are.
So this is the Mr. Softy emoji.
So I can see how that would be problematic for litigation then, because it's like, okay, what if I was, telling someone I wanted chocolate ice cream, and they were like, you called me, blah blah blah,
Well, see, that's the
Yeah.
thing. So that emoji can be said, and it's not hearsay. If you said this emoji is poop, then that's hearsay because it's being offered for the truth of the matter. You can say it happened, and then you need other testimonial evidence to prove what it meant in the. See, all right. See, this was a lesson. We should be getting CLE for this.
This is good. Where's
Well,
where's
and
Arthur
this is
Miller
why
when
we
you need him?
can't have. This is why we can't have
Nice
nice
things.
things as human beings, right? Like we get this cute little ice cream emoji and it immediately becomes poop. It reminds me of that AI that they introduced on Twitter that became like racist and sexist in 20 minutes and they had to shut it down because of it learned from what was said to it, which was a bunch of human beings being idiots.
The
So like
the
we
Tay
can never have nice things. We ruin everything.
was
Moral
that
of the
the
story.
Tay
Yeah.
the Tay AI thing? Is
Yeah,
that what
that
you're
one.
talking about? Yeah. No, that one's fantastic. Hilarious story.
Yeah, I think Greg Lambert hit the cone on the head here. I mean, if it's not in a bowl or in a cone, then it's not ice cream. I mean, you don't just see like soft
It's a
serve
good
ice cream
point.
just sitting in a plop on the ground.
Well, you do. That happens all the time to poor little 3-year-olds, and then your
Well,
day as a parent is ruined.
but then it's not all nice and swirly and. All right. I think it's an appropriate time to move on to a completely different topic, Victor, which is NFTs.
Yeah. So speaking of poop emoji, NFTs.
Yeah, right.
You
can buy some very valuable NFTs of poop emojis.
or like the original like artwork for the poop emoji or something. Then you could you could buy that and now it'd be worth like 2 cents, I guess. So yeah, I thought it was just one of those things. Like I mean, I don't collect NFTs. I mean, I really don't see the point of them, but a lot of people obviously spend money on them, and there's a big market for it and whatnot. And I thought it was just interesting how because I was kind of wondering like sort of like how the NFT market was doing, considering that cryptocurrency right now the value is in the toilet, and I guess now we have our answer. It's one of those things where it's like obviously, I mean, NFTs are becoming a big marketing tool for a lot of companies and a lot of industries and whatnot. Even some law firms are offering some, and now it's like you kind of look at sort of how you're you look at the oh sorry, I guess I had the host and panelists. You look at like sort of how the crypto market is doing in general, and you kind of see how that is reflective in the fluctuations and whatnot. I mean, you have artwork going for like millions and millions of dollars in NFT form, and then I wonder how much they're worth now considering the value of crypto. So I just thought it was interesting how and plus it's like the other angle of it was that like this particular article was talking about how like people aren't really talking about it, even though the value of NFTs has obviously crashed along with the crypto market. And I mean, I thought that was kind of an interesting angle. Like maybe people just don't want to talk about it, or they just don't entirely understand what's going on, or there's still kind of the idea of like crypto being a hedge against traditional markers of financial strength and whatnot. So the idea that they're not completely correlated. So I said those are interesting things going on, and obviously with the law firms that are getting into the NFT train, it's kind of and just the crypto train in general. It's just a reminder to kind of just be careful and just kind of remind them that at the end of the day, it's still a commodity, and a very, very volatile one at that, and one that the value can just fluctuate like that just radically, and you have no idea from one day to the next how much it's going to be worth.
So I want to share, because you're mentioning this topic, this is mildly related, but a couple weeks ago I tweeted this, and I thought it was true, that the funniest collection of words on the internet came out the other day, which was from NBC News, pointing out that Anna Delvey, that woman, says she's trying to move away from her scammer persona and plans to launch a collection of NFTs. Just the most unintentionally hilarious set of words I have ever read, and I just thought I should share. All right, move on.
Yeah, I thought this was a really interesting article. I don't even, there's parts of it where I didn't even know what to make of, like the quote where they talk about driving up NFT prices by people who are kind of creating these syndicates to share the trading among themselves. And the quote is, "We call it circle jerking, and we circle jerk each other's NFTs to increase their prices." I guess that tells you that there's also a lot of men involved in.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing was that, like, yeah, they were saying that, like, yeah, like they may have shorted their own NFT, so therefore they can make money that way. I'm just kind of like, you're putting way too much energy into all this stuff. I mean, more power to you if this is how you make your money. But my God,
They-
I don't know how they keep
It's
track
a
of this.
boiler room.
Yeah.
It's a boiler room mentality, like a pump and dump scheme. And now, and just like cryptocurrency, they're going to create a situation where a bunch of people hold a bunch of them that they need to move, and so they're going to artificially inflate the interest in them so that they can get out, because it's all a scheme, man. And then when people steal them or copy them, they start complaining to the government that they need to help regulate it. And the quicker a college football podcaster that I follow said it best. These people are running so quickly into accidentally inventing the FDIC. It's crazy. Every few days, there's another crypto person going like, the money system that the government uses is fake, but they need to step in and protect us in case somebody tries to steal our money. And I'm like, you idiots. We invented the system already. It is done. Oh, God. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, all right. Maybe I will. Since we have a little time, I'm gonna cheat and talk about a story we talked about last week. But last week, Zach talked a little bit about a story about the launch of this legal analytics product called Predicta, and I just got around to writing about it this week. So even though we hit on it a little bit, I just wanted to bring it up again a little bit, just because I really got a chance to dive into it a little bit more and look at it, and it really is a pretty interesting product. And of anything I wrote about this week, this was certainly the post that got by far the most interest and attention, including on social media. And the whole idea is, can you come up with analytics that can actually predict what's going to happen with your case, with your particular motion, not just how judges tend to rule in general on motions for summary judgment or motions for summary judgment in intellectual property cases or that sort of thing. But can you get down to the nuances of your case? And this company says that's what it's doing, and it claims to be doing it with a roughly 87% accuracy rate. And they claim they've tested this back over 10 years of Pacer data to establish this accuracy rate, looking at their predictions versus what actually happened in cases. And the trick with what they do here is that rather than just pull Pacer data, which is what all these other analytics products do, or state docket data, they pull in as much data as they can about a judge. Where the judge went to law school, what's the judge's political affiliation, what firms has the judge worked at before, what political contributions have they made, what's their overall financial status, and they slice and dice and cross-reference all of this so that they can, in theory, say, if you're a plaintiff in a case in which you are going up against big mega company represented by big mega firm and ex-lawyer at big mega firm, then your chances of surviving a motion to dismiss are 96% or 10% or whatever it might be. And they're looking at the judge's propensities. Does the judge tend to favor big firms? Does the judge tend to favor this particular firm? Does the judge tend to like Republicans better than Democrats or something? I mean, it's just really fascinating to get down into the weeds like this of decision making. Whether it all works, so far we have just their word to take for it, but they are out there. It is a commercial product, and they have launched, and well, I guess we'll see. Time will tell whether it's working, and they want to expand it out into other. Right now, it's just motions to dismiss in federal court. They want to expand into other kinds of motions and into state courts as well. But I think it's really one of the more fascinating products I've seen in recent times.
Yeah, I guess I'd be interested because, like, one of the things that I saw was the what was it, like just reading your piece, it was like, whether or not they were influenced by the prestige of a firm. And I was like, how would they track that information though? It's like, if you have, like, Kirkland and Ellis going against like some other firm, and then he rules for Kirkland and Ellis, then does that automatically mean that he or she is influenced by the prestige of the firm, or is it just that
Yes.
they had a stronger position? I mean, yeah, it's or I mean, yeah, like do they? Because I don't think they ever really single out lawyers for their for their the strength of their arguments and whatnot in their opinions. So I mean, I'd be interested to see how they calculate that data.
Yeah. Somebody said to me on Twitter, good lawyers know the law, great lawyers know the judge. And we'll see if that's a true axiom. Steve, I forgot. I didn't come to you yet. I don't know why I somehow thought we had started back with you back at the beginning. So fortunately,
I'm so
we have time.
forgettable.
No, not at all. No, and it's a really good story too. So I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, and it ties in a little bit with a couple of things we've been talking about, the basic, and particularly what you've just been talking about, Bob. But there was there's this outfit called the Brennan Center for Justice, and I think it's affiliated with NYU Law School. And
Yeah,
for
they
several
are.
since 2019, they basically run demographics on high state court judges, particularly with respect to diversity and other things. And so they updated it recently, and it basically confirmed what has been the case for a long time, and that is that most highest state courts are composed of old white men. In a very scary sort of way, particularly when you think about most of the work that gets done in courts is done in state courts. And so, we often hear about diversity at the federal court level and Supreme Court level and law firms, and don't think about the state courts. But when you start looking at these statistics, 20 states, there are no justices that identify as a person of color, including 12 states where people of color make up 20% of the population. There are no Black judges in 28 states. There are no Latino judges in 39 states. There are no Asian American justices in 43 states. There are no Native American justices in 47 states. And I'm sure this will catch Niki's eye. 39% of the sitting justices are former prosecutors, while only 7% are former public defenders. And so, you start looking at this and you think, well, it's just scary because, first of all, most of these justices are elected, not appointed, which says something about the state of the world. And with so little influence by people of color and women, for that matter, how do these justices decide cases from any viewpoint other than the viewpoint that they have, and that is of old white men? And maybe they're not old, but they're mostly white men. And so that's scary. And it is also scary in the sense of, how people are perceiving the high state courts, how people of color perceive, their cases that go before these panels of white men when they may be people of color. And how can people of color believe that they are going to get a fair shake when you look at what you see looking at the court panels are white men? That to the extent we have a rule of law left, which is as Joe and others have pointed out, is a little shaky in and of itself. But how can we believe that this is going to endear any sort of confidence in the rule of law by African Americans, by Hispanics, by any number of groups of people that you want to look at? And it seems, I don't exactly know how they did all this. The report indicates that they looked at biographical data and a lot of data put together by a researcher at the University of Utah. But I would think it would be fairly easy to ferret this kind of information out if you put your mind to it. And I don't have any reason to think that it's in any way inaccurate. One particular statistic that stood out that I didn't mention, and that is that men hold 59% of state Supreme Court seats, which is really sort of striking when we now hear about that much of the abortion fights are now being challenged in state courts under state constitutions to be decided by primarily white men sitting on the bench. This doesn't makes me sort of shudder about how that's going to work out. So I thought it was a pretty damning report and a pretty scary report in a lot of ways.
It is. Yeah. And I'm going to shift real quick to a story just because I heard it over the last week in my travels. I was chatting with a lawyer between the coasts, and they were telling me a story that fits into this about one state where the law is that state Supreme Court justices are elected, but if there's a resignation between periods, they can be nominated and then they get to stay, basically. And there's therefore an unwritten rule, basically, that only crazy people retire during the only crazy people run during the elections, and everyone times their retirement so that they can stay in the good graces. And that the only Black justice who ever got on that court was a very, very competent and ultimately Chief Justice of that court. But he had to run because his own party was like, well, I mean, I don't know. We seem like we're liberal enough. I don't know. And he was like, no, Black people need to be on this court. I guess I'm going to run. So he ran in the he got an opening and ran in the crazy person election to therefore get himself in, apparently. So, but I heard that story, and my takeaway was that, you know, a real reminder that even the people who think they're helping are often not helping, and that they are a big part of this problem. You know, there are some folks who just don't care, but there are other folks who claim to care and aren't doing enough. So that was my takeaway from that story. And since I just heard it 2 days ago, it was in top of mind when I read your piece.
Yeah, I was wondering one thing I didn't see in the report anywhere is a breakdown of chief justices, and I was curious what that would look like. Because I know in Massachusetts we have a Black woman as chief justice of our highest court. I'm very happy to say, but I would love to see what the numbers are in terms of the chief justices, because obviously, as we, you know, in general, the chief justices have a lot of sway over the courts. And
you mean like Chief Justice Roberts?
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing I would be interesting to find out is to expand the study beyond just the highest courts of the state and look at the courts of other jurisdictions of these states where even more work is done, and there is even more contact with the general population. And I've not seen any studies on that kind of thing. I would hope that they would be better, but I don't have much confidence that they would.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that? Any other thoughts on anything? All right. We will probably be back next week. I'm going to be traveling. Am I the only one going to AAA? You Steve, you're going to AAA, right? Or you're going also? So see you in Denver. I'm actually flying to Denver on Friday, but I think I get there in plenty of time that I could do this next week. So
I'm flying on Friday too, but I think I don't leave till after we're done. So I may be in the airport.
Okay. All right.
The way the flights go these days, I may be in the airport for a long time. So
yeah, right. Yeah, maybe I should just drive out to take my inspiration from Joe and drive out to Denver.
You could pick me up on the way.
The airfare, yeah, not too far on my way to go down to Kentucky on my way.
All right.
Great American road trip. You've got a convertible. We all know from a previous show.
Right. I'm not sure it would make it to Denver, but I do.
Get your kicks on Route 66, man. Like,
whatever happened to the above the law? We were going to get an above the law van one year or something. Or was that Legal Talk Network? I forgot. We were going to get a big party van and go around and do podcasts all over the country.
I think that would be a great idea. But
I think it was Greg Lambert. Maybe Greg Lambert, was he part of that? I forget who was going to do that. Like Molly McDonough and her crew did way back when she was at the ABA Journal. They did a road trip, Legal Rebels road trip. All right.
Yeah, that was before my time, but yeah, Molly can tell you all about that.
She's in the audience today, so
Yeah.
she can, yeah.
We should do it, and then we can TikTok it.
And yes, exactly. Yeah. All right. Good. Well, we'll maybe see you next week. And thanks everybody for attending today. And a reminder that we actually you can find all the past shows at legaltechweek.libsyn.com or on YouTube. Just search for Legal Tech Week. We're posting them all up on YouTube as well. So if you miss one, you can find them there. All right. See ya.
Have a good
Have a good
weekend.
weekend.
Bye all.